if I could maybe turn the ceremony over to Rabbi Natan Margalit, Rabbi Deborah Kolodny, and Rabbi Mira Raz. And I just want to say how much I appreciate Rabbi Kolodny and Rabbi Raz for being here. They've traveled a long way. Deborah Kolodny is from Portland, Oregon. She has flown many hours and is kind of wedging this in the middle of a wonderful new job that you're combating racism in Portland, and that is something that we need far more of in the Jewish community. So I really just am so grateful to you for making the trip. Rabbi Mira Raz has come from Tel Aviv to be with us today. She's never been to Boston before, and I really appreciate your making that long journey. So, and Natan has come all the way from Newtonville.
That's right.
I hope that this distance becomes much shorter.
Me too. So, this feels like a bar mitzvah. I don't This is better than a bar mitzvah.
You know the bar mitzvah haiku?
No.
It's actually very appropriate for me today. Today I am a man. Tomorrow I shall return to the 7th grade.
Beautiful. That's great.
It's in Reb Moshe's book, Moshe Waldock's book.
That's great. You know, the Shema is a haiku as well. Just telling you. So, Jeremy, I want to first of all congratulate you. That was a beautiful sermon, a beautiful Devar Torah. And it really makes me proud because, I haven't really heard you do that kind of a sermon before, and it really exemplifies one of the things that we're going to say in your smicha document, which is that you're searching for the meaning in the text, not just the revealed meaning, but the hidden meaning. And I think it's just a wonderful thing for people to hear that when it's talking about mold and leprosy and skin scale disease, that in fact it's really talking about our speech and how we must live together as a community. And so I thank you for bringing that out. I did want to talk a little bit, this week's Parsha, the Torah reading, is actually, the name of it is Tazria, which has to do with giving birth. It says when a woman gives birth. And so before it starts talking about the scale disease and the mold, it talks about birth. And clearly this is also a kind of a birth. And part of what they talk about in this idea of a birth is something that I learned from one of my teachers, Rabbi Shefa Gold, that she says the meaning they talk about when a woman gives birth, she has a period of isolation before she comes back into the community. And she says whenever we give birth, whether it's a biological birth or a artistic birth or a birth of a new part of ourselves, we have to have a transition from that period of isolation to coming back into the community. And since this week's Torah portion, we just got to it just today, and most of my head for last week was in last week's Torah portion, I think there's a connection between last week's Torah portion where it talks about the tabernacle. And of course, the tabernacle, of course, is a tent, and that enclosure of a tent, which is in some ways also the source, the blessing and the source of life. So in some ways, that is also a womb which gives birth. And it talks about Aaron the priest, who goes into that tabernacle and comes out, and the first thing he does when he comes out is he blesses the people. And then it says that Aaron and Moses went into the tabernacle, they blessed the people, and then it says, and then the glory of God is revealed to the people. And so this is what I felt about this, that there is a real sense that this has been a birth for you, that you've been in this tent, you've been in this enclosure, and since we've been in this enclosure for the last 6 years or so, and working on yourself, developing, making sacrifices so that you can learn, so that you can take who you are, who you began with, and come out transformed. And that takes dedication and isolation and real work that you've put into. And it's so typical, it's so much who you are, that like Aaron, who came out of the tabernacle, and first thing he blessed the people, that this is what you're doing, that you're going out and immediately blessing the people. You're a brilliant scholar, you have amazing ideas, and you have a rich inner spiritual life, but your real focus, where you really are putting your intentions, is blessing the people and allowing the glory of God to manifest out into the world. And that's what you're doing when you come out of that tent. You're coming straight out to be that blessing for all the people. And so it's such a proud time for me, because just look at, I think I might as well look at my notes since I wrote them. You know, you've always impressed me with your integrity and your honesty, and really just the extraordinary high level of ethical standards that you hold yourself to. And it really is, and sometimes it's very typical that someone who holds themselves to such standards, who is so careful to do the right thing in all occasions, that kind of person could be very cautious and not want to go out and not want to try something new. In fact, you're the opposite. You have this quality of great integrity and high standards, and yet you combine that with boldness and really a courageous way of being in the world. Amen. That you are willing to take risks and willing to, as you talked about, face criticism and willing to stand up for what you believe. And it's also so typical, many people who have strong beliefs, who hold themselves to high standards, who really know what's right and what's wrong, can have a sense of judgmentalism, of judging other, because maybe you'll find that they're not as high a standard as you, and yet I found you're the opposite. That all you're about is all about inclusiveness. That you really deeply enjoy all of the variety and the different ways that people can worship, can believe, can be in the world, and that you treasure all of that, and that you bring it together into your world, and you treasure all that diversity. It's just the opposite of judgmentalism. And so all of these things, it just feels that you are coming out, and I just want to bless you that you always have those qualities of courage and high standards and inclusiveness, along with your brilliance and your humor, and that you bring a blessing to the world, and you reveal the inner divinity. Let that be revealed and manifest through all of our work together and through your work in the world. And I just also want to say that, you know, we've talked about, you talked about the story, how we started learning together, how, you know, our friend Panina brought us together because you wanted to learn. And I felt so lucky through this time that you've been so helpful to me and have given me such honor. And your learning process has also given me the privilege of feeling like that I actually have a student who has worked with me and who has learned from me and is very different from me in many ways, and yet we're able to honor one another and see one another through this process, come out of that tabernacle, and both together, like Moses and Aaron, both together try to bring our own blessings to the world. So I thank you for all this process, and I want to bless you for this continuation as you move from a friend and a student to a friend and a colleague.